The
Mhm.
welcome to motherhood symptoms. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
We hear it all the time. Debilitating fatigue. It's like that fatigue that's unrelenting no matter how much sleep you get. It's kind of like the fatigue you feel it deep in your bones,
Okay.
kind of thing.
Mhm.
Mood issues, which really, really do get dismissed often without like an in-depth workup. We're very passionate about this, and I always say, like, we're not anti-medication, but we're anti-only throwing medication at symptoms and not really doing a deeper dive into why you're having the rage, the irritability, all of the mood swings. Those are three very common symptoms that we see. Maybe something you've experienced before, but I know many of the
Yes.
moms listening definitely have.
Hey, Mama. Welcome to the Working Moms Playbook, the go-to podcast for moms balancing careers and babies. I'm your host, Antonia DePace, former editor, current marketing maven, and mom of one. Each week, we're breaking down the systems, mindsets, and support every working mom needs to thrive, whether it be at work, at home, or everywhere in between. So let's get into it. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of the Working Moms Playbook podcast. This week, we are talking all about postpartum care, which has been, I feel like, a very popular topic as of late, especially on social media. But there has not been as much movement as we really need with postpartum care, especially for us working moms and how it kind of conjoins with us actually going back to work. So I would love to welcome Sarah Dougan, who is the Director of Clinical Operations, as well as a postpartum practitioner for Postpartum Care USA. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for coming on. I found you guys through, I think, socials actually, and
Yeah.
I was just like, this makes so much sense. Why don't we have more access to this, or why don't we have more of this? And I was like, oh, here we go. you
Girl,
know,
we hear that all the time. All
yeah,
the
I'm
time.
like literally the question to so many things.
Yes.
But yeah, I would love for you to get started by telling me a little bit more about Postpartum Care USA,
Yeah.
defining exactly what you guys are for our listeners, as well as like what led you to actually start and
Yeah.
participate in the company. Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, well, let me just start with exactly who we are. So we're a telehealth postpartum company, and we're actually the only one in the United States that just sees postpartum moms virtually. So we see moms in the comfort of their homes, which who doesn't want that as a busy mom, especially with multiple kids and a crazy schedule. But really, what makes us so different is we get root cause labs on every single mom that comes through our clinic, which most moms don't get just with their standard OB or midwife. But on top of that, just depending on how much care and guidance you're wanting, we also do individualized nutrition and health coaching, deep dive supplement education. Everything is really individualized to what you need postpartum. And we see moms up to 10 years postpartum,
Wow.
which that actually throws people a little bit because they're like, wait,
Yeah.
what? Postpartum goes beyond 6 weeks. Yes, it does. And that is part of the reason why Stacia, our owner, started Postpartum Care USA. I've been with her since day one of PPCU, which is wild to even believe that. But she's our owner, she's the founder, and she's incredible. And really, she just saw this big gap in postpartum care outside of the 6 weeks because most of us moms go back to work after 6 weeks because that's what we're given, right?
Yeah.
And so that's actually the time period when moms start to really feel they're sickest, they're most symptomatic, and they're also trying to juggle going back to work at the same time. So many, many reasons why Postpartum Care USA was started, but it's really, really honing in on postpartum goes so much farther than the 6 weeks.
Yeah, let's touch on that
Yeah.
a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, you have the baby, you're in the
Yeah.
whirlwind of recovery,
Yeah.
right? I feel like a lot of postpartum checkups are at that 6 week mark for so many people.
Yep.
And it's very brief and quick, and you're
7
so,
minutes. That's what mine
yeah.
was.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and
Yeah.
you're, like, in the midst of all of this chaos that I feel like you're not
Yeah.
even in tune with how your body is actually
Yeah.
feeling except for
Yeah. Oh,
exhausted.
yes. Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so in those, like, weeks after that, like, what are those symptoms or things that moms are often coming to you guys about that would almost be dismissed as just like
Just motherhood.
typical, yeah,
Yeah.
motherhood.
The
Hmm.
welcome to motherhood symptoms. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
We hear it all the time. Debilitating fatigue. It's like that fatigue that's unrelenting no matter how much sleep you get. It's kind of like the fatigue you feel it deep in your bones,
Okay.
kind of thing.
Hmm.
Mood issues, which really, really do get dismissed often without like an in-depth workup. We're very passionate about this, and I always say, like, we're not anti-medication, but we're anti-only throwing medication at symptoms and not really doing a deeper dive into why you're having the rage, the irritability, all of the mood swings. Those are 3 very common symptoms that we see. Maybe something you've experienced before, but I know many of the
Yes.
moms listening definitely have.
Yep.
Um, so the fatigue, the mood issues, low libido, just really not feeling like yourself kind of thing. And, those first 6 weeks, you're really running on endorphins. You're not sleeping. You're trying to care for this new little baby and maybe older children on top of that, trying to establish some type of routine, rhythm in your day. And you're just like, okay, we're go, go, go. We've got this. Sometimes your spouse is home. You have a little bit more help because people want to see the baby. But then things at about the 6 week mark, 4 weeks even, it all starts to like settle and you're kind of, I don't want to say like on your own, but you're a little bit more isolated and the endorphins stop, right? And your body's kind of trying to play catch up and it's scraping from the bottom of the barrel with all of your nutrient stores and your hormones are trying to adjust and keep up and it's struggling because you're depleted. You're not sleeping well. You're inflamed and your doctor's not really looking at what's causing it. They're just like, yes, let's just throw some medication. Welcome to motherhood. I'll see you in a year. Call me sooner if you need anything, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so that's why we see moms starting at that 6 week point, postpartum and beyond.
Right,
So,
right. So
yeah.
then you did say, like, you guys see moms up to like 10 years postpartum, right? And you were
Yes,
like, and that's such a shock for so many people. But
it
I'm
is.
assuming that in addition to the fact that, if you're having multiple children, obviously more time to recover. But then
Yes.
also, I'm assuming that, like, if you never get the help from the get, I'm sure there's prolonged symptoms for a very long time. There's often women who just, you'll hear them say that they never felt like themselves again.
Yep.
Um,
Exactly.
so when those symptoms are dismissed, which is like 90% of the time at this point, unless you're
Yeah.
very lucky,
Yeah.
or they find you guys.
Right.
Um, so in those cases that those symptoms are dismissed, like what is that chain of events that could potentially happen from kind of like a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah. So do you mean like what could happen if all of those symptoms do get dismissed?
Yeah, and
pretty
like
much. Like
nothing's ever
what?
treated. And like they come to you, a mom comes to you 10 years postpartum. They maybe had one or two
Yes.
kids and they just like
Oh,
never
yes.
felt right again, right?
No. So typically what can happen is moms will develop like long-term like dependency on medications like thyroid medications or
Mm,
anxiety and depression medications
yeah.
because they're just, made to feel that this is just how it is. And they need to rely on medications to kind of keep them afloat. We see that time and time again, specifically with thyroid medications, because this is one of like my biggest pet peeves in terms of postpartum health. It is very rare to have a full thyroid panel drawn by your PCP or just your provider in general. Obviously, we're drawing a full thyroid panel because we know how important thyroid is and how easily and quickly it's impacted in the postpartum period. So that's something we pay a lot of attention to because your thyroid kind of controls a lot of things in your body. So the moms that we see up to 10 years, usually they're on 3 or more prescription medications. They're not sleeping well. They may have developed chronic diseases, right? Also something else that I would say we see is maybe some misdiagnoses quite a bit too. We've actually had moms come to us and like, yes, I'm in perimenopause, and they're like 33. Not going to say it could never happen, but a lot of the times it's just from nutrient depletion or your thyroid's not optimal or your cortisol is dysregulated, and all of those things impact how your sex hormones function. You're really not in perimenopause. You are just not really provided the right workup. So does that
So
answer your
sad.
question?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
It's just
Yeah,
like so, so sad because
I
so
know.
many women like don't get to live their life to
No,
the fullest because of
I
it.
know.
And
It's
there's just so many cases. I I mean, obviously, like at the time of this recording, like not
yeah,
at the time of, this being published,
yeah,
or it could still be, honestly, but
yeah.
like the Lindsay Clancy case, like that's a huge deal right now.
I
And
know. I was gonna
that's
bring
so
that up. It's
sad.
very triggering for many, many
Yeah.
moms, and it's we actually have a lot of moms right now that it is impacting a lot because they have had a history of postpartum psychosis or they felt like they were on that path. And, that is something that we, high alert type patients where we keep closer tabs on things like that because it is more urgent,
Yeah,
emergent type situations.
of
But
course.
um let me just say, like, if it's like one of those things where it's bothering you and it's giving you intrusive thoughts, just shut off social media. Don't get on, don't follow the case.
It's very sad all
It
around. Like
is.
it
Yeah.
can honestly go as far as that, right? Or
Yeah.
even
I
I feel
know.
like some moms are like never themselves again and they're very
Yeah.
hormonal, they're very
Yep.
their behaviors are all over the place, which can then lead to, of course, like divorce, right?
Yes.
It can lead to like
Oh,
the breaking up
yes.
of families because like all of a sudden
Yeah.
there's so much going
Yep.
on.
We have several moms who come to us and they're like, I just want to save my marriage. Like their husbands will say like, this isn't you, like this isn't who I married. And there's a lot of guilt that comes with that too. And so we do take care of a lot of moms who that is part of their story and they come out on the better side of it, and we always encourage their spouses to be on the calls too, so that they can understand that, this isn't who they are. This is just where their body is at. And there's not a lot that they have control over. And we need to do targeted supplementation, focus on nutrition and talking about nervous system health because Lord Almighty, I've got 3 kids,
Yeah.
2 dogs, and a husband. And it's like your nervous system really gets shoddy. And
Yeah.
it's really hard to figure out how to balance it all and work through the barriers for you, but also for your family. Right.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
it's a lot. Like, so I always say, like, we've heard it all. So don't ever be afraid to come to us and tell us like how you're feeling, what you're going through kind of thing, because we have heard it, we have taken care of it or personally
Yeah.
been through it ourselves.
Yeah.
So,
And that's
yeah.
so huge to have like
Yeah.
someone to be able to be active on it,
Yes.
who actually
Well,
knows
and
what
we're
they're
all
doing.
moms on the team. We're all moms, which makes it that much more special because I used to have an OB, was not a parent. And so it's just kind of hard to explain like what you're going through. Whereas sometimes, moms will just join the call and like, I just need like 5 minutes to talk. And that's totally fine,
Yeah.
because we've been there. We're living it ourselves. Majority of our staff, actually 9 of our staff, were due to have babies in the year 2026. So we're all, there's a lot of us that are pretty fresh in it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
So then going into, of course, all mothers go through this, but for
yeah,
the case of this specific audience, right, where we're
yeah,
mainly mothers who are going
yeah,
back to work,
yeah.
obviously that return date that looms on your calendar, it just like
It gives
haunts
me
you for,
anxiety still thinking about it.
oh my God, it haunts you for a variety of
Yes,
reasons.
it does. It does.
But what can moms and even families, right, even husbands and mother-in-laws and moms, like what can we all be doing in the weeks leading up to that start date to ensure that moms are at their best mental and physical health as they
Yeah.
return to work?
Yeah. And I just want to hug every mom that is listening to this and leading up to their return to work start date because I still feel the ache when I left my daughter. Um, it is a deep ache. And I feel like I will always feel that, like, oh man, that guilt feeling of I need to go back to work, but I don't want to leave my baby kind of thing. And it is so incredibly tough. And for those moms, for those families getting ready to enter into that phase, the best thing that I can really recommend is just trying to prepare, like practice as best as you can, the weeks leading up, having kind of like a plan in place. Who's going to watch baby? Who's going to watch kids? Who's going to get them to school if you have school age kids? And just kind of having a plan in place to ease your mind that you do have some control over the situation. You may not have control so much over your emotions because it will be hard. And when somebody told me it does get easier, I was like, don't tell me that. But it does. It really it does. But just kind of figuring out what is going to help you and your family succeed. For me, I brought lots of pictures to work. I brought a onesie and a burp cloth because I was trying to figure out like how to balance the pumping schedule in between seeing patients, and just like little reminders of my daughter kind of thing, and just preparing it was like a Nora backpack of like what I could bring to work to help me feel like I wasn't gone for 10 to 12 hours.
Yeah.
But I had my mother-in-law who was coming to watch. She came up those first couple weeks, just a few days, just to kind of see the routine, the rhythm of the morning, what we did. And thankfully for us, it was just very natural for my mother-in-law to kind of step in and help. And my husband actually took off a few days, the first few days while I went back to work. And so that made me more comfortable. But really just having those conversations and communicating to whoever is helping, like, this is what we need, asking for help and not feeling guilty asking for help. Because I know a lot of us moms, we have issues asking for help.
Yes, we
um,
do.
it's like a lot because we feel like we're supposed to be doing it all and we can, but you can only do it for so long. Uh, but really just having those open, honest conversations, what you're comfortable with and what's going to work best for you and your family. It's going to be different for everybody. It will.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for me, I just had to have like those little reminders of my daughter. And honestly, when I got back after the first week, I felt like I could breathe a little bit just because the routine that we had kind of set in place. I knew when I got home, she was just as happy and healthy, well fed and loved as if she were with me. So,
Right. So
yeah.
then on the opposite end of the spectrum, of course, you
Yeah.
always hope to have a village. I know not every
Yep.
mom is as lucky to have one.
Nope. Not at
Um,
all.
yeah. But then on the opposite side of the spectrum
Yeah.
for employers, right?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Whether it be corporate, whether it be, someone who just owns their business and you're working for them,
Yep.
whatever it might be.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
how can those employers make that transition easier, but mainly make the fact that like they want their employee to
Yep.
be at their best mental and physical health when they return?
Yes. Yeah.
What does making that a priority and actually supporting that look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. It can be. I think the biggest thing that we really want employers to understand is the mom is not just physically recovering. And I think that's just kind of like something we've always had in our head. Oh, yes, like she's 6 weeks postpartum. She's up, walking around, looks like she has energy. No, below the surface, you and I both know there's this never ending mental load of
Mhm.
motherhood. And even saying that can feel a little bit triggering of like, okay, like
Yeah.
most moms and employers need to remember this. They're up multiple times a night before going to work for 8+ hours a day, depending on what the job is. Uh, and it, not sleeping quantity wise, but then having to come back to work and being expected to be at your best. That's a lot of pressure on the mom, right? Also having to balance the childcare aspect of it. And Lord, only help us if kids get sick,
Oh
right?
my God. Yeah.
We could talk all hour about the stress of
The
that.
daycare phone call popping up on your phone or the school number popping up on the phone, and you're like, should I
I
really
know.
answer it? I answer this phone call.
I know. It's just like there's so much more that moms have to balance.
Yeah,
And,
there is.
like getting a daycare bag ready, which I always, whenever I talk to moms who are entering into this phase, it's like, do it the night before as much as you
Yep.
can, prepare like as much as you possibly can. But employers wise, just, and I do this with my staff, like giving them the space to kind of ease into things, not having as high of those like expectations after, coming back from being off for 6 weeks, however many weeks that you do get. There's a lot more than just physical recovery postpartum. It does play a massive factor because a lot of like C-section moms, like they may have like lifting restrictions still and things like that, Um, and so it's just that mental emotional aspect of it. They're missing their baby. They're having somebody else watch their baby. They're having to figure out how to work in pump breaks if they're breastfeeding kind of
Mm,
thing. And there's just a lot more that needs to be talked about and balanced in the like corporate world, returning to work. And it's tough. It's
it
tough,
is.
but, it kind of takes me back to like when we were talking just a few minutes ago, just having those open and honest conversations with your like manager who oversees you and just talking about what you might need. And just not being afraid to have those open conversations because I think employers will definitely be more open to those conversations than what we think. I think times, they are changing a little bit. We live in a world where most of us are dual income households. And so it's just something that we do see quite a bit. Like these conversations just need to be had. And before you know it, you've got this beautiful schedule that just works well for you and your family.
And then you have another kid and it gets all blown up all
And then
over
it gets
again.
all wobber jobbed again. I know. But That's that's just like I keep saying, like the importance of like those open, honest conversations, what
Mm-hmm.
they can do to accommodate, what might not be as easily accommodated as
Mm-hmm.
well. But I think one of the biggest things we hear is like the pumping type schedules, just having like a comfortable, safe space to pump. Always have that conversation with your overseeing manager. I cannot stress that enough because that legally they have to provide that for you.
Right.
You should not be pumping in your car or the bathroom. So
Yeah. 100%.
yes, yeah. Let me
So,
just like really reiterate that. But
yeah. Yes,
yes,
that's should not be happening.
no,
Um, so then let's go back to like the telehealth aspect really
yeah,
quickly
yeah,
of
of course,
Postpartum Care USA.
yeah,
So I feel like, especially me too, like I've done this. Like telehealth is great, but then sometimes there's always that question of like, how much can they actually do for me because it's someone through a screen, and it's great in so many ways because you're able to connect to so many more professionals than you are
yeah,
necessarily in your own area. But then there's this like weirdness about it sometimes too, because you're like, how are they going to actually diagnose me? I mean, I I thought I had strep throat like 3 months ago, and
yeah,
I called in to like Oscar's
yeah,
telehealth because it was
yeah,
free, and the
yes.
guy asked me like 4 questions and was like, "Well, based off my survey, I don't think you have strep." And I was like,
This is
"But
helpful.
you didn't like you can't like look down my throat." Like
Yes.
I didn't expect him to be able to, but he was just like so like pointed at the fact that I did not have it.
Yes.
Now, let me preface he was correct. But but
They don't
it
need to know
was
that. It's okay.
yeah, but it kind of like brought up that, I
Yeah.
think that happens for a lot of people.
Like,
Telehealth can
how
be
legitimate could
yeah,
this
so, like,
be kind of thing?
what does
Yeah.
that, like, visit
So,
actually look
yeah.
like for you guys? I know you said you order labs. I know, of course, you said you go over things, and I'm sure you refer out to other specialists depending on what they need. So, like, as a mom coming to you at between 6 weeks to 10 years, whatever the time range is, what does
Yeah.
that appointment really look like?
Yeah. So the first appointment is the lab review appointment. So,
Okay.
like I said, every single mom will get labs. So we actually have that objective data from you specifically. It's not just you filling out a survey of symptoms. Of course, we ask like medical history intake form wise, like what you're experiencing, all of your medical history, what kind of medications you're on, what you've tried, what hasn't worked, kind of thing. It's fairly lengthy, but doable, I should
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Um, and so the first appointment's always the lab review appointment, and we are looking at your specific data and interpreting it from an optimal standpoint. We're not looking at just as is the reference range that you're used to seeing in conventional medicine and what you're used to hearing. Oh, your labs are normal. Like that's where the welcome to motherhood postpartum really comes in.
Yeah.
Not with us. The word normal is absolutely banned in our clinic because there is no such thing as normal. So we're looking at all of your biomarkers, and it's an
Okay.
hour-long appointment where for example, where like your ferritin is at 20, nowhere near optimal, right? But per reference ranges, that's normal. But because you're so far from optimal, ideally like around 80, just depending on like your medical history, we develop a targeted supplementation plan and nutrition plan for you. So it's extremely different. It's not just like filling out a survey. Like, yes, we cannot physically like palpate your throat or anything like
Right.
that.
Right.
But we have that data, your lab data from the labs that we do get and walk you through why you're feeling the way you're feeling based off of your results. And then just depending on, like I said, the package that a mom would move forward with, we have registered dietitians, health coaches, and RNs, along with practitioners on our team that really help you develop your plan for you. So it
And
is a
when it
lot
comes
different.
to, yeah, a
Go
lot
ahead. Yeah.
different. And like
Yeah.
when it comes to that lab work,
Yeah.
as I've learned over the past few years, Like,
Yeah.
obviously, there's different kinds of labs, but
Yep.
the ones that you guys are taking are like that full
Hmm.
panel, correct?
Yep.
So nothing is missing.
The ones that postpartum moms need. There's 55 biomarkers that we're evaluating. And your PCP or your OB definitely is not drawing all of those. We've actually never seen that. Which again, I won't get into that. I could talk all hour about that, but I will save you your sanity there. Uh, but yeah, I mean, we're getting from all of our research the exact labs that postpartum moms need. And we're always revamping and researching. Like we are just perpetual learners and we want to do what's right for postpartum moms. So, yeah, I mean, it's all exciting stuff. And majority of our moms are like deer in headlights. They're like, whoa, like at that lab review, I had no idea. And it's just a very eye-opening experience. And it's, our passion. And we absolutely love teaching moms why they're feeling the way they're feeling, but also treating them at the same time, just in a different way.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
does it work with accessibility when it comes to insurance and payment?
Hmm. Oh, so we actually don't take insurance. Postpartum is not seen as insurable, especially after the 6 weeks.
Shocker.
It's kind
Shocker.
of like, I will watch what I say here, but after the 6 weeks, it's really not seen as insurable care. Also, if you were to even try and process this stuff through insurance, most of the time you'd be paying more out of pocket for these labs than you would doing it as a direct care, like
Yeah.
paid model.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, we make it very doable for moms. If you can't pay in full, we have a couple options for payment plans, things like that. So it's, a lot of moms will take advantage of that, just, make it like lower monthly cost for them
Okay.
and their family. But yeah, you never know. Someday, who knows? Maybe we could change the course of postpartum care in the United States. That would be amazing.
We
But
would
for
need
right
like young mothers and government, I feel like specifically.
It it has been just a hot topic. Moms ask it daily. We get several questions like, why is this not insurable? I'm like, let's talk to, the people that actually control that. But
Yeah.
yeah, we make it as accessible as we possibly can. Uh, but yeah, yeah,
Which I love because you know, you just see so many there's this weird gap, right? Where there's like no postpartum
no,
care access. And
mm-mm,
then there's like all of these really beautiful postpartum care things like you see all the
yeah,
time. There's like that one postpartum care hotel wellness center that is basically modeled off after the ones in Asia, which are
yep,
approachable, but it's in New
yep,
York, so it's not
yep.
approachable. And
Oh,
it's like only for the elite. And you're like, okay, well,
yes.
that's great. But like, I can't afford $10,000 a
That
night
is
for a
not
room.
me. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you see some postpartum resources that are quote unquote accessible, but like they're
Mhm.
really not for most people,
Yep.
especially in this current economy.
Yeah.
And it sucks. It sucks, especially when you're like, you want that access and you need that access and you know
I
it
know.
exists and you just
I know.
you can't do it because
Not
it's
attainable. Yeah.
yeah, it's not
Yep.
attainable and it's really horrible. So I think that's a huge standout that you guys actually really try to make it because it's, the more people that you can help, the more moms you can help, the
Yep.
better our world
Yeah.
will be.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so then for someone who is, they might be freshly postpartum, maybe
Yep.
they're returning to work in a few weeks, maybe they've already returned to work and they're just having a horrible time, whatever that time frame is.
I
What's
know.
that one thing that you would tell them right now, that piece of advice, that action step that they can take towards becoming that better version of themselves or that original version of themselves that they just can
Yeah.
no longer connect with?
Yeah. You need to get labs and you need to get labs with team that knows how to interpret and take care of postpartum moms. Truthfully, we meet you where your body's at. Um, Labs are always going to help guide you in the direction that you need to go. There's no guesswork with it. That's the nice thing. Um, and just having that action plan. It's kind of like if you're not getting labs, and I know this from my first postpartum, I did not have labs drawn at 6 weeks, and no wonder why. I had that unrelenting anxiety and intrusive thoughts starting at
Yeah.
4 months postpartum.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Thankfully, all the timing worked out very well when I started working for Postpartum Care USA, and Stacia got me on a much better path. And then after my twins, I was set up for success in that department. But that's the biggest piece of advice I can give you is set yourself up for success. Get labs with a plan. Don't be just like shooting in the dark, taking random supplements that you see, this influencer taking that says it worked for them, or just struggling and just, walking through all of those like muddy waters. You will not get better on your own if
Yep.
you don't have that guidance, at
Yeah.
least some of the answers. So, first step is always going to be labs every single time.
Labs, 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 which we should all be used to at that point because all we're doing is getting our blood drawn during pregnancy
I
anyway.
Well, and the other aspect to that is, again, just learning and working with a team that knows how to get you to optimization, not just the normal, in quotes, where you're just like, yeah, okay, again, welcome to motherhood. Like, this fatigue is normal. Unrelenting fatigue is never normal. I cannot stress that enough.
Yeah.
And that's just one of the, many symptoms that we hear on a daily basis. There's probably a good like 75
Yeah.
symptoms that we have kind of normalized in
Okay.
postpartum. I will not go through all of those, but there are several. Uh,
Yeah.
it's just not normal. It's not
Yeah.
normal. We've just been made to feel like it is, and it's just not okay. So, insert Postpartum Care USA. We're here to help you feel like you can feel like you again. It is possible.
We already went over fatigue, like
Yeah.
deep bone
Yeah.
fatigue is one of those
Ugh.
symptoms. Obviously you don't need to name like the crazy amount, but can you name maybe like the other top 4 that you're seeing? So we have like a
Oh,
total
yes.
top 5 of
Yep.
maybe someone listening to this episode will be like, oh my gosh, I have that. And it'll inspire
Yes.
them to come to you. Yeah.
Yes. Gut issues like bloating, not really digesting food well. We see that so often postpartum, just gut issues that like came out of nowhere. Skin issues. A lot of moms will develop like dry patches, eczema. A lot of us like get like that dermatitis on our face, which a lot of moms are thrown with the acne too. So skin issues can kind of be all encompassing. So gut issues, skin issues. I think I previously mentioned like low libido, the mood swings, the fatigue. Also, gosh, I'm trying to think of some of the insomnia. That's a big one. No matter how tired you are, you just cannot seem to get to sleep, or you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't go back to sleep. That's a huge, huge one that we hear. And for some reason, that's been a really, really hot one lately. And I think it's because it's like back to school time and like summer, like with the kids home. So I think there's,
Right.
just a lot that moms are trying to balance with that. Joint pain. Joint pain's huge. It's kind of like when you get out of bed and you're like bracing yourself. I don't know if you experienced that in your postpartum.
I
But
didn't, luckily, but you never know.
I'm like, it kind of like scared the bejesus out of me. After I had my daughter, I was like, whoa, like I really had to brace myself because it felt like everything like locked up with the
Wow.
joint pain. Yeah, it was so wild. Usually points towards thyroid issues
Okay.
and hair loss. Lots of
Okay.
hair loss symptoms too. If you're pulling like clumps, like constantly, you absolutely need to get your labs checked. Any of those symptoms, you need to get your labs checked.
Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah.
I think those are all good symptoms to be aware of. And
Yeah.
they're so common. I know I experienced like the random acne breakout at around, oh my God, I'm trying to think because it was happening around my nephew's first birthday. He's 3 months ahead of John. So I guess John was like 8 or 9 months. And
Yes.
all of
Yep.
a sudden, like I was like getting all these hormonal breakouts and
Yeah. It's like you were
I
in
don't
puberty
break out.
again. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. I know.
Yeah.
I know. I was the same way after the twins. And it just like seemed like nothing really worked, but it was really linked to my cortisol levels and my blood sugar. So once we kind of got that dialed in, the acne dissipated with some targeted supplementation and targeted nutrition
So
approaches.
you hear that, moms? We don't have to be dealing with these things. These things are
No.
not normal that have been normalized. Please, please, please go get your labs. I am like ready to go get labs now.
Yep.
For our listeners who want to learn more about you guys and want to look more into the website, maybe even schedule that appointment, where can they
Mhm.
find you on socials? Where can they find you on the website? So then that way they're able to get this started, feel better.
Yes, totally. So you can find us on Instagram, Postpartum Care USA, pretty easily. And then I can actually send you our like website link, and you guys can actually schedule a complimentary visit with one of our wellness advisors to learn about our program too.
Amazing.
And yes, it's actually really fun. You get to talk about why you're feeling the way you're feeling, kind of thing.
Mhm.
And then our wellness advisors will walk you through like the different options of how Postpartum Care USA can really support you. And if you're like, yes, like let's do this, I actually personally will order labs and get everything started for you. And we just kind of get the ball rolling. So
Great.
really
Well, you
excited.
guys can find that link. I will put the links in the show notes so that's easily accessible, probably right smack at the top instead of my usual like middle bottom situation because that needs to be right there. Oh my God, Sarah, this has been so helpful and eye-opening, and I'm so happy that I got to have you on today.
Yes.
So thank you for taking the time and for talking us through this. It's been a pleasure having you
Yeah.
on.
It was a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
love talking about postpartum and just working moms in general. Like I am a working mom, so I totally get it. Totally get it. So,
Yep, that's what we need. More moms who
yeah.
get it. Well, thank you again. And for everybody listening, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of the Working Moms Playbook podcast. You can find everything, any takeaways, show notes, the links that we just spoke about, where to find Postpartum Care USA in the show notes below. And then I will see you all next Wednesday for another episode of the Working Moms Playbook. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this episode of the Working Moms Playbook. And also, thank you so much for sharing this episode with any and every working mom who might benefit. Also, thank you for subscribing. It means so much to be able to continue to grow this village of working moms in a world where our villages can feel fairly small. Keep an eye out for next week's episode, always debuting on a Wednesday, and I can't wait to see you there.